1, 2, 2. Check 1, 2, 3. Hello. Are we recording? All right. So guys, I forgot my Bible at home today. Hala. Halala kokonana. Thank you for understanding, Matty Drake. What versions are they?
CSB. NIV.
Nope. Okay. Nope. I'm looking for NASB. Thank you. Yes. But I'll just read it out of my phone. It's okay. I'll survive. Do you guys remember where we left off in Genesis? 41, end of 41, verse 50. We did not make it all the way through 41 because it's a freaking long chapter. Yes? So we're going to start there. Again, let's do some recap so you guys remember where we are and where we're doing and why we're doing that and where we're going. Anybody want to take a crack at recapping what we've talked about thus far in a very succinct manner? Genesis 41. Wait. Joseph has dreams. Yep. Okay. Interpret. So there's a dream theme. There's a dream theme and motif. Okay, so that's one of them. What else have... Brother against brother, hatred. And we've seen that through the entire course of Genesis as we go. Favoritism, oh boy, okay, from parent to sons, right? Or, yep, parents to child, right? Okay, and there's these themes going through. What else is going on? What other themes have we, who are the main characters of the stories that we've been reading this far? Yes. Judah is one of them. Who else? Joseph, okay. We're supposed to be comparing those two brothers throughout the course of these stories. Yes? Okay. We're going to resume in chapter 41, verse 50. I want you guys to be looking for the hyperlinks, for the themes, for the motifs. Do we remember what the difference is between the three of those? You forgot? Yes. Yes. Yes, same kind of thought, different words that are hyperlinking around.
And motifs are like a bigger thought of all those.
It's like when you have a repeating, a motif is like, Tim Mackey would call them design patterns, things that keep coming up in similar ways over and over and over again. Like when you have a Western movie, that is a design pattern, right? We talked about how if aliens showed up and started watching a series of Western movies, they'd be like, this is literally the same movie over and over and over again with slight changes, right? And when you get to the 12th or 15th one, you're like, wait, this guy's got a shotgun instead of a 6-shooter. How is he going to win? He can't shoot fast enough. But somehow he's still going to win, right? That's how Western movies work. Yep. That's how design patterns work. You get the trope, you're like, huh, and then there's a slight twist to it because otherwise it would just be the same story that you read previously.
What was the time one?
Time one? Oh, time-space continuum stuff? Okay, so we had also talked about, yes?
It like jumps in time, or it goes from like the person was like, he thought this when we weren't there to know he thought that.
Yes. So that's beautiful. Great job explaining that. So that kind of relates back to the Chekhov's gun rule, right? Yeah. Authors are not required to share anything. There is no requirement for the author of Genesis to be like, and this person said this, or and this person thought this, or summarize a whole bunch of years of things in one sentence, right? So when they hit the fast forward button, we need to notice they just hit the fast forward button. Like, remember at the beginning of chapter 40 or 41 when it says, after 2 full years, Pharaoh had a dream. And you're like, whoa, we just hit the fast forward button like massively. Like we had just been talking with like Joseph and the cupbearer and the baker of Pharaoh, right? And then they just hit the fast forward button like super speed. And then they slowed it down again. We want to notice those things. But also, when people are thinking thoughts, as Maddie was saying, you want to notice, hey, they just like hit the super slow motion button. And they're breaking the fourth wall. Yes? They're letting you into the thoughts of the characters. And that's not something they're supposed to be allowed to do. Because how do they know the thoughts of the characters? And then we had chiasms.
Ecclesiastes, the whole book was a chiasm.
Yes, indeed. I'm loving this recap. Good job, guys. We're remembering things. Okay. Sean looks like he's deep in thought about something.
He's usually deep.
Yeah, his hands are, he's doing one of these, like a thinker pose, and I'm not sure what he's, no? You don't want to talk about it? Okay, well, we won't talk about it. All right, so let's pray before we start digging into chapter 41, verse 50, and then we will resume, okay? Thank you for that recap. God, it's so good to be here with you and with these people. I'm so excited to get to ponder this stuff. Would you help us as we ponder your word? Would you speak to us in the midst of that? Thank you for this opportunity. Would we notice the things that you want us to notice? Would the scripture do to us what you want it to do to us? In Jesus' name, amen. All right, chapter 41. Wait, we missed something very important in our recap. How does waha'o work? What? Yes, okay, but what does it mean?
What's happening?
Uh-huh. Or like, what is the sensory input I am receiving, right? That's what is happening. Okay, is?
Possible things that could mean.
Mm-hmm. Oh my gosh, I can spell. What could it mean?
What does it probably mean?
What must it mean? What must it mean? Yeah. What must it mean?
And then, this is how I'm going to apply it.
Mm-hmm. Application. Okay. I'm getting more and more succinct at how I can summarize those. The more I think on it, I'm like, I could have explained that better. So if I come back to something, usually it's because I want to like rehash it, not just for you guys, but also for me. Yeah? Does that make sense? Yes?
Until you take away.
Until I take the definition, and then you lose it all again. I'm going to keep harping on waha'o until the day I die. Not going to lie, it's the best thing I've ever learned in my entire life. So please, if there's anything you can get from any of the lessons that I've ever taught, waha'o is like the most important thing you can do whenever you are struggling through any sort of like trying to understand something. My wife and I were playing, have you guys ever played the game Rush Hour? Colby was trying to play it last night. We tried that one, we could not figure it out. It's okay, don't feel bad. Yes, you move cars. So we have, it's not the phone game is lame in comparison with the actual physical plastic. There's a phone game version of Rush Hour, don't play it. There's a real version of Rush Hour that's at my house. I'll bring it back sometime, we can play it. When you get to the more complicated versions of Rush Hour, waha'o will save you hours of frustration. Do you know why? Because all of a sudden, you must think through which cars could move. Okay, this one, that one, and that one. Which car must move for me to move another car? Only these two. Okay, so which of these two is the important one to get the red car to where it needs to go? I don't know. We have to backtrack. And then you go through the stuff, but as long as you do it slowly, it works, and you will finish the level. If you do it too fast and you get excited about how all the cars are moving, it like, once you get to advanced, it's almost impossible to like rush through it. It's so hard. We were trying to do the hardest level and we gave up because we could not waha'o our way through it. Like we were trying and trying. I'm like, that we missed something along the way as we were waha'oing. And that's the human experience is sometimes we forget how to waha'o or we don't take it slow enough and we screw ourselves over every time we do that. So if it's something that's genuinely important to you, like reading the scriptures, waha'o your way through it. If it's something important to you, like, I don't know, making big life decisions, waha'o your way through it. Slow it way the heck down. Otherwise, you're going to speed through your decision and be like, no, we got it. And then you're going to be like, wait a minute, I could have done that or that or that or that. Yes?
So I understand how to do it with the Bible, but how would you do it to like a big life decision?
Okay. What is the sensory input you're receiving with your big life decision? Is this something you're willing to walk through with us? We might not get to Genesis if we talk through this, though, because we're going to slow it way the heck down.
Well, I want to get to Genesis, but I think this might be helpful.
It might be helpful.
Okay. Talk to him at lunch. Do you want me?
Do you guys want to talk about this now, or do you want to talk about it at lunch?
Talk about it now.
Everybody wants to be like, how do I get through a life decision? Okay, are you willing to share this big life decision quandary that you're having? Before we get to it, because once we get into it, yes, you are. Okay, so what is the sensory input you are receiving? You need to make a big life decision.
The big life decision is if I stay on the
Wait, no.
Wait, what?
Slow it down before that. Before you even do that, you're trying to decide if you want to stay on the island. That's what it sounds like you were saying, yes? Okay, before that, are you currently on the island?
Yes.
Okay, do you have to leave the island in order to stay on the island?
Not necessarily.
Okay, do you have to stay on the island to stay on the island?
Not necessarily.
Okay, see how waha'o is already affecting how you're thinking about that?
Yeah, okay.
Yeah? Okay, so we're going to slow it way down. You are currently here. The sensory input is your feet are on the ground on Kauai, right? You are seeing more sensory input that the end of the school year is upcoming, right?
Yeah.
Now, you must do something about the end of the school year, right? Because you can't continue to go to school when school stops. Because school's not happening when school stops, right?
Yeah.
School does not continue. So, at that point, what could you do? And list out all of the actually feasible options. And this is where it gets really long and drawn out.
Okay.
Like, take a second mentally to yourself, or physically with a piece of paper, write down all of the feasible options. Yes? Now, in order to accomplish the next goal that you feel like God is calling you to do, what must you do? And that could leave you with several options,
Yeah.
right? But then you can eliminate the options that are absolutely, I cannot do those, right?
Yeah.
Okay. At that point, you go through again with those options you receive. This is the sensory input I've gotten to. These are the potential options. Slow it down again. What could it mean for me to do each of these things?
That's the application.
No. So the application, you take the application and put it in as your wah again. So we are like, you have gone one step of slow motion, then we're going to go to double time slow motion, and we're probably going to go to quadruple time slow motion at some point in time. Does that make sense? Is that making sense to everybody else? Yes, you're following? So waha'o, if you do it once, fantastic. But what you need to realize is when you arrive here, there's almost always another layer starting here with what you arrived at over here. Does that make sense? Yes? This is like Inception, where if you start going down the rabbit hole, you can go infinitely down that rabbit hole. At that point, you must decide how far you need to go to make a wise decision. And how far it is, is it necessary to go further? Not necessarily. Would I arrive at more helpful material if I go through another round of waha'o? Maybe. Where I tend to stop is either I've run out of time and I have to go do something else and I cannot waha'o anymore. But then I save it for later and I come back to it, right? Or two, I've gone through waha'o an additional time and it has not produced any additional helpful O's that I could put through waha'o again. At that point, I've reached, at least in my perception, the bottom of that cavern. Yes? That's how many times you can waha'o through something.
So what was the application that she was taking back to Oak?
So we are going to, at some point in time, school's going to stop. What could that mean? It could mean either I have to leave, or it could mean I don't have to leave and I can stay, right? What are those options? We skipped through a layer of waha'o right there. So now it's what could those options mean, right? So you've got a potential to stay at KCF doing something, maybe. You've got a potential to find a job here, totally. You've got a potential to, what are the other options of how you could stay on Kauai? Well, you could, a legitimate option, it's not a great option, but it's like a physically possible option. You could decide to be homeless and live on Kauai. It's possible, right? It's not a great option. It is an option. It's a ha. It fits the description, yes? All of those options need to be listed so that you can be thorough. You don't want to just skip options because no, that's not a real. No. In the ha section, list everything. What are all the possibilities? Because when you get to that's when you say, homelessness doesn't sound like something that God wants me to live in right now. Maybe later at some point in time, but right now, probably not so much, right? So, At that point, you get to cross it off your list of like, these options are not feasible. But list all of the options. Okay, I could get a job. What else could happen? I could move off of Kauai. That is a feasible option. What are those options? They're pretty much infinite, friends. Like, you could go anywhere after this. Could you go to school? Yes. Could you get a job? Yes. Could you, what else could we, someone list something else that Maddie, Kate could do.
Get married.
Yep, you could get married. There's another wow that's required for that. But it's a feasible option, right? That's another, join the circus. Hey! I feel like that almost qualifies as a job, but they don't really pay very well, so maybe it doesn't. Volunteer at the circus. You could become volunteer at home, like, right, the list goes on and on and on. Hey! I feel like picking some, like, that might be slowing it down too much. Like you could sell some flowers, though, right?
Oh, fruit.
Yeah.
Find a pineapple tree and steal the pineapples and sell them out of your car.
I mean, that sounds like a bad option, Sam. I'm not gonna lie. That does not sound like
Write them all down.
I know, I did. You're correct, Seth. Thank you for that. Yes, you could have a never-ending list of So maybe don't list like stealing pineapples off a pineapple tree from someone else's yard. Like illegal things, unless they are things that God is specifically calling you to do, maybe avoid the illegal options. Yes? Okay. Yes, make sure you know it is God calling you to do that and not like a schizophrenic friend that's like, hey, we should totally do this because this voice told me to do this thing. Because that happens. That does happen. It's the people that struggle with schizophrenia have voices all the time. That's a long conversation for a different day. Okay, but then you arrive at what must I do to accomplish something that God is calling me to do, or to just be alive, right?
So does that mean I pick one of the H's?
You don't have to pick one. You need to pick any of the H's that are actually applicable to you, that are like, this is super legit, right? At that point, I could do this, this, or that. I could leave the island and go get a job somewhere on the mainland or somewhere else in the world. I could buy a lottery ticket, not here, but somewhere else you could, and try to get rich that way. It's not a very helpful option because the odds of you winning is not very high. But it's like there's all these options of what you could do. List all those options, put them next to each other. Oh, these are all the potential options of how I stay on Kauai. Sensory input. I could stay on Kauai these ways. What could that mean for my future? That's what that could mean for my future. But list all the positives and negatives at that point, right? Now, if you pick one, at that point, you could go through and pick each of those options as like, if I do this, what could it mean? Yes, you will 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 different things, and you work through, like basically it's the slow version of doing a pros and cons list, only you're actually considering like how feasible those pros and cons are along the way. Yes? Yes. But if you just do pros and cons, there's not like a percentage of how much meaning that has for you, right? Mm-hmm. This is weighing all of those options as like, is this actually a legitimate, like 80% this will actually work out, that this pro is actually a pro? Because when we just list pros and cons, we're like, oh, it's a pro. Like, that's totally, what if that never happens? Because I don't know about you, but I've had lots of pros and con lists. And a whole bunch of times when I was like, this is going to be a great thing. And then, like, we get to where I'm actually at that situation. I'm like, what was I thinking? I thought this was going to be a great thing, and this is a terrible thing. How did we get here? Oh, I didn't actually weigh the percentages and chances of this actually working out the way I thought it was going to work out. Yes?
Like, when you're in the stage,
Mm-hmm.
can you ask other people?
Yeah, totally. You can totally ask other people. I would suggest asking people that are wiser than you. Where is it in Proverbs? It says the presence of many counselors, there's wisdom, right? I'd also like to bring up the story of which king is it? Not Hezekiah, Jeroboam. Whichever king was right after Solomon. Rehoboam, thank you. I get the bones all mixed up. There's too many of them. But so that king like came into power, and all of his dad's advisors were like, listen, you need to take it easier on your people. And then all of his friends said, dude, Nah, your dad didn't go gnarly enough. You need to be gnarlier than your dad. And he listened to his friends, and then the kingdom split in half. Because he was listening to his friends who were not wise. Go find people where you see their life is lived out in wisdom and ask those people these questions. When you see someone that you're like, they're doing something similar to what I think I might want to do, find that person, track them down, say, we need to get coffee. Don't give them the option, or maybe give them the option, but ask them when they want to get coffee with you. And take them out for coffee and ask them all of the questions. Yes? That way, your life doesn't end up looking like a mess that you never wanted it to look like. It starts looking like something that you actually are like, this looks like and smells like Jesus and like me. Yeah? Because that's what our hope is for you. We want you to come out of this looking for opportunities to be a blessing to the world, to be God's kingdom on this world, and for it to distinctly smell like Jesus and you. That is our goal for you. I hope that's what your goal is for you. Because if you just meander through life, you're going to end up smelling like something that you never thought you were going to smell like. And it's probably not going to smell super good. Okay. Does waha'o make more sense now, friends? Yes? Does waha'o as applied to real life make more sense, Matty Kate? Cool. All right. Are you guys ready to dig into Genesis and use waha'o to do it? Okay. We're going to try to just finish Genesis 41 because we've got 25 minutes. But I get to teach the last hour of today, too. So we're going to come back to this and do more. Yay. Okay. Chapter 41, verse 50. Now, before the year of famine came, 2 sons were born to Joseph. Two sons. Wait a second. There's a whole bunch of layers. What?
That's at least 16 months.
That's it. Unless they were twins. At least 18 months, yes. So we're fast forwarding some time, right? He's hitting the fast forward button, the author is. 2 sons were born to Joseph, whom Asenath, the daughter of Potiphar, priest of On, bore to him. Okay. Joseph named the firstborn Manasseh.
Wait a second. Did he have a wife that was a priest of another god?
Isn't that interesting?
Why would a woman be a priest?
No, she wasn't. Her dad was.
Her dad was the priest.
Oh, the daughter of, sorry, I missed that.
Her name does mean, what does it mean, Nick?
Belonging to the goddess of meat, or net, or something like that.
Very interesting. There's a whole bunch of layers to all the hyperlinks forwards and backwards for that. Okay, we're going to keep going forward. Joseph named the firstborn Manasseh. What does that mean? Well, kind of. It means you made me forget, but then he explains it afterwards, right? So Manasseh just straight up says, made to forget. Something along those lines, right? For he said, God has made me forget all of my trouble in all my father's household. How many stories have you guys heard about the tribe of Manasseh through the course of the Old Testament?
Not very many.
Not very many. Interesting that Joseph named Manasseh Manasseh, and then Manasseh Manasseh's. He gets forgotten. You don't hear a whole lot about Manasseh. Okay, next one. He named the second Ephraim. What does it mean?
Be afflicted?
Fruitful in the land.
Fruitful.
To be fruitful. Hey, is fruitfulness hyperlink back anywhere in the book of Genesis for you guys? Garden. Lots of places. God says, be fruitful and multiply. How many stories do you hear about Ephraim in the scriptures after this? There's more than Manasseh, tell you that much. Here's the other part, though, is that there's some irony here because Ephraim, is fruitful in, producing offspring and stuff, but also, his family line, there's a lot of stories about how they're, not fruitful in, partaking in the kingdom of Israel. When they take back, so they leave to go to Egypt, everybody gets stuck in Egypt after this story, right? Spoilers. And then 400 years later, they all go back to where Abraham had settled, and they're taking it over, right, in the book of Joshua. And Reuben and Manasseh stay on the one side of the river, and there's a whole bunch of times where they Ephraim stay on one side of the river, and they call them to come help take over the rest of the kingdom. And Ephraim kind of does, but then also like kind of bogs along the way. Maybe I'm wrong about that. Someone correct me if I'm wrong. Is that correct? Have you gotten that far in Joshua yet? Yes? What happens? Do you guys remember hearing about Ephraim in there?
I read that like
We haven't covered the tribes.
Ah, gotcha. Okay. I don't want to spoil that for you, but look for Ephraim as you're reading in Joshua and in Judges. Oh, that's another story for a different day. Okay. For he said, God has made me fruitful in the land of my affliction. Interesting. When the 7 years of plenty which had been in the land of Egypt came to an end, and the 7 years of famine began to come, just as Joseph had said, then there was famine in all the lands, but in all the land of Egypt there was bread's the word that the NASB says. What do your translations say?
food.
Bread. Nick? What does yours say?
I believe mine also says bread.
Interesting. What does the Hebrew say? I'm pretty sure the translation is more or less corn.
I have corn, but it's in the next verse later.
Gotcha.
Bread, food, grain.
Yes, there was grain or corn. So when all the land of Egypt was famished, the people cried out to Pharaoh for bread or corn. Pharaoh said to all the Egyptians, "Go to Joseph. Whatever he says to you, you shall do."
He's done that before.
When the famine was over all the face of all the earth. I wonder if I heard that before. Yes. There's a lot of over the face of all the earth. Yeah, there's a whole bunch of. Yeah, there's so many hyperlinks back from this one little line right here. Yeah. Then Joseph opened all the storehouses and sold to the Egyptians, and the famine was severe in all the land of Egypt. The people of all the earth came to Egypt to buy grain from Joseph because the famine was severe in all the earth. I feel like they're.
Sure said that a few times.
You think they're hyperlinking much? It's something important. Yeah, okay. So we made it there. We're going to keep going. We'll see how far we can get through 42. Now, Joseph saw that there was grain in Egypt. Or Jacob. Sorry, not Joseph. I said Joseph. I don't know why I said that. Because the title on top. And Jacob said to his sons, "Why are you staring at one another?" He said, "Look, I have heard that there is grain in Egypt. Go down there and buy some for us from that place so that we may live and not die."
Go down.
And then live and not die is another hyperlink, but I don't remember where it goes back to. It's like big letters for me, and I'm trying to place it, and I cannot. Where is it?
It's God removed them from the garden so they would live and not die.
Ah. That's not the one I was thinking of either, but I think it's Cain. I think the one I'm thinking of is Cain when he's talking about, if anyone sees me, they'll kill me. So give me some protection so that I might live and not die. Yeah. There's all these like, Then 10 brothers of Joseph went down to buy grain from Egypt. But Jacob did not send Joseph's brother Benjamin with his brothers, for he said, "I am afraid that harm may befall him." I want us to look at this theme. Yeah. How do we compare this with chapter 37? You guys remember when Jacob told Joseph, "Hey, go down and see your brothers." And he just sent them. And now he's like, "I can't do that. I don't trust these brothers to behave with the youngest brother." Some favoritism again? Is that what we're seeing there?
I don't think it's like he's afraid of his brothers. They put it on an animal and he's an animal, so he went by himself.
Right, but he's seeing this theme of wherever he sends his favorite son, when they're around his brothers, something bad tends to happen.
Yeah, and the word for, what is it, something bad?
Yes.
Less mischief should befall. Mine says mischief, yours says
Bad, something,
bad or whatever. The word
harm.
is the same as when he named, when he said for Ephraim, like, I've been fruitful throughout my afflictions, and it's the same word for mischief.
Interesting.
So definitely implying that.
There's some hyperlinking here. Yeah. Good spot, Nick. So the sons of Israel came to buy grain among those who were coming, for the famine was also in the land of Canaan.
There's Israel, not Jacob. It's driving me nuts.
Yep. Surprise. Now Joseph was the ruler over the land. He was the one who sold to all the people of the land. And Joseph's brothers came and bowed down to him with faces to the ground.
Fulfillment of a dream.
Hey! When Joseph saw his brothers, and he recognized them, but he disguised himself to them and spoke to them harshly.
He disguised himself. Probably with clothes. And his speech.
And he said to them, "Where have you come from?" And they said, "From the land of Canaan to buy food." But Joseph had recognized his brothers, although they did not recognize him.
They just said that.
Okay, wait, but have we talked about how people being unable to recognize people, like yes, the recognizing thing, they're like doubling down on this hyperlink of like unable to recognize. Now the brothers are Isaac. The brothers are Jacob. The brothers are everybody that has been unable to recognize anyone, right? Joseph remembered the dreams with which he had about them and said to them, "You are spies. You have come to look at the undefended parts of our land." Then they said to him, "No, my lord, but your servants have come to buy food. We are all sons of one man. We are honest men." Interesting choice of words. "Your servants are not spies." Yet he said to them, "No, but you have come to look at the undefended parts of our land."
I don't know what that means because mine says nakedness.
Suppose like in Adam and Eve.
And like in Noah, and in like there's so many hyperlinks for the nakedness of something, right? ESV did a good job with that one. That's not always true. I'm sorry. What?
Nakedness, nudity, shame, unenda.
Yeah, fun.
So it's not. It's weird that it like I always thought it was like they came down to see how bad the famine was. Like he was thinking like
There's spies here coming to see the
it's a good time
to
attack
take over,
them,
to take.
whatever,
Yeah.
But this is not talking.
Isn't that interesting? But he also, so if we're hyperlinking for themes, remember that two of his brothers sabotaged the entire town of Shechem and took it over, taking all the wives and children. He knows those stories. He watched his brothers do that. And now they're pleading honesty. Do you know what this makes me theme-wise and motif-wise hyperlink back to? All through the course of Genesis, God, / whoever the tester is in the story, has been offering the sinning party an opportunity to be honest about where they are at. You are spies. Well, no, we're not spies. We're honest. As soon as he hears honest men, he's like, that's complete crap. You're so full of yourselves right now. I cannot believe you. How dare you say you're honest men? I know you guys. He can't say that, but inside, that's his interior monologue. You hear that? Okay.
But why does this still use that word?
The nakedness of the land?
Yes.
Because it's hyperlinking back to all the times. So, yes.
No, I'm just.
Oh, okay. Do you remember? There is a, and you really have to waha'o your way through this. But as far as I've been able to see, that hyperlinks back to the story of Ham and Noah. And when Ham goes in to see the nakedness of his father, it is a story that has bounced through the course of scriptures where one of the sons attempts to take something of their father's by observing the nakedness of their father. It happens with Noah and Ham, where Ham either does something to his father or does something to his mother, and it's really awkward and uncomfortable. It makes Noah so mad that he calls down a curse on his sons and his grandsons, right? I think it's really convenient that when that happens, Noah doesn't call down a curse on Ham. He calls down a curse on Ham's son named Canaan. I wonder where Canaan came from. From Ham and Noah's wife? Very possible. That's where I get uncomfortable, right? Like, this is a... But also, there's other stories about, like, incest in the course of Genesis, right? Lot and his daughters. And then you've got Reuben sleeping with his stepmom, and Jacob hearing about it and being like, well, you've just lost any sort of respect you had for me, loses his firstborn thing, right?
So what do you think they
So they're attempting to take power from the kings of Egypt by spying out the land and then preparing to attack the land. It's the same sort of like, I'm going to take something from you so that I have power over you. To prove that I have power over you, right? See the nakedness is to show some sort of authority or power over the other person by abusing someone in their immediate family.
Although he is falsely accused, they can't. From what we know.
From what we know, yeah, they came to get food, but he also wants to appear as someone that they do not know, right? He is being deceptive, and they are being deceptive. There's deception happening both sides, right? Now, but Joseph is doing it to test them, and they are doing it because they just want to save their hides, right? Okay. Okay, we're going to continue on. But they said, 13, your servants are 12 brothers, the sons of one man in the land of Canaan. And look, the youngest is with our father today, and one is no longer alive. They're starting to try to be honest. Yes?
How do they know he's no longer alive when they sold
They have no idea. But they're making a guess, an educated guess. Mm-hmm. You see the irony there? The one that they think is no longer alive is standing in front of them. Joseph said to them, it is as I said to you, you are spies. By this you will be tested. Testing. 1, 2, 3. Yeah, 1, 2, 3. So, there is a huge hyperlink and theme of testing in the book of Genesis. And I'm not talking like arbitrary tests to be like petty. That's not how this works. God does not test people to be petty. That is not how God rolls. Right? So when you're going through a test, remember that God is not petty. And he's not just testing you because he's like, I just want to test them to see what they're up to. No. I had to think about this with Waha'o for a long time because someone had asked me about the seemingly arbitrary tests that happen throughout the course of Genesis. And the thing I keep coming back to is, yes, there are tests that like a girlfriend or boyfriend will do to their girlfriend or boyfriend to be like, do they really care about what I think? Do they like that? That can be important or it can be petty. It depends. There are tests where like you do a math test to figure out how much you know. And then there are structural soundness tests where when you build a building, in order to know that the cement's going to hold, this cement has to be tested to a certain strength. Yes? When you test an electric cable, you have to test an electric cable for a certain amount of electricity to go through it. All of these things can only be functional if they survive up to where they have been tested. Yes? This is the kind of test that God does. Is this person going to survive? This test will tell me if what they are doing is fruitful or if they're just going to collapse under the pressure. Yes?
Why does God need to know that he already knows that? Is that for us to know that?
There's a riddle in there, isn't there? Is it for God to know? Or does God already know? Is it for us to know? That seems like where it's heading. I don't want to declare that as the only option, because there might be other options. Yes? Okay, let's continue.
Enns,
Yes?
is there a hyperlink about them assuming that he's dead? Because he's the one who's trying to bring them life. Or something like that.
Oh, there's a theme hyperlink in there, yeah.
Yeah, the one
So the one that's trying to keep them alive.
they think is dead, or they say he's dead to them.
Definitely. Okay, where would we stop? 14. Joseph said to them, "It is as I said to you, you are spies, but by this you will be tested. By the life of Pharaoh," interesting he says by the life of Pharaoh, "you shall not go from this place unless your youngest brother come." Yes?
So Pharaoh is like a god figure.
Mm.
So do you think he's trying to act as an Egyptian, make them think that he believes Pharaoh? Okay.
Yep. More deception for the sake of the test. Unless your youngest brother comes here. Now, Joseph is no longer just testing his brothers. He's testing his father. Because his father was the one that sent him out to go find his brothers, thinking this will teach Joseph a lesson about being so prideful about his dreams. Do you see the angst in there? Joseph sees, and he's like, why didn't my father send my youngest brother on this trek? Why did he send me out but not send Benjamin? There's a riddle in there, guys. Okay, continuing. Great job spotting that. Send one of you that he may get your brother while you remain confined, that your words may be tested, whether there is truth in you. But if not, by the life of Pharaoh, surely you are spies. So he put them all together in prison. Anybody have any other words for prison there? Custody. Interesting. So every time we've had prison thus far, what has the word been in Hebrew? Pit. Right? Because they threw Joseph in a pit? Anybody want to look it up? Is it pit? I have a sneaking suspicion it might be.
What is the verse?
17.
What was the Hebrew word for pit?
I am trying to remember.
I'm looking at a translation that's not saying anything about pit. It's more like jail.
Yep.
A place of confinement, prison, guard, jail, guard post, watch, observance.
What's the root word in Hebrew?
Mizmar.
Mizmar. Is there a root word behind that root word? Like may I see your? Yeah. From Samar or Shamar, to keep guard. No, it's a different word. Why did they use a different word? That's so interesting. There's a riddle that I don't have the answer to, friends. 18. Now Joseph said to them, oh, there goes the microphone. That was weird. All right, pop filter gone. Now Joseph said to them on the third day, do this and live, for I fear Elohim.
He just revealed something about himself.
Well, so wait, no he didn't, because that is the general word for God or gods or any spiritual being or Lord.
So basically he's not saying much.
He's not saying much. Do this and live, for I fear, a spiritual being. If you are honest men, let one of your brothers be confined in your prison. But as for the rest of you, go, carry grain for the famine of your households, and bring your youngest brother to me, so that your words may be verified and you will not die. They split the live and not die in half and put a whole bunch of stuff in there. Do you guys see that? Start of verse 9, end of verse 18. Do this and live, so that your words may be verified and you will not die at the end of 20, right? It's just got a whole bunch of stuff in between, and we're not looking for it. We won't see it. And they did so. Then they said to one another, truly we are guilty concerning our brother, because we saw the distress of his soul when he pleaded with us, yet we would not listen. Therefore this distress has come upon us.
They're connecting two and two finally.
Hey, Reuben answered them, saying, man, this guy cannot be more of a tool. Did I not tell you, do not sin against the boy, and you would not listen? Now comes the reckoning for his blood. This is the guy that has lost his honor as the firstborn and is still trying to be like, see, I told you so. He might be right. But nobody's paying any attention to what he's saying.
Hyperlinks are actually here.
Can you translate that for me, Mr. Nick?
Okay, my version says, also his blood is required. I just had this image of our Moses dropping the coins in. Like, literally, Israel Bill is Joseph, and they just left him behind.
That's
That's great, Nick. That's a strange hyperlink that I did not connect.
why we are humans and not animals. Abstract thought.
Oh, boy. All right, we got 5 minutes left to see how far. Oh, we're halfway through. Let's keep going. They did not know, however, that Joseph understood, for there was an interpreter between them. He didn't. It's part of the test to appear like an Egyptian, like you were saying earlier. He was speaking in Egyptian tongue, and they were speaking in Hebrew.
Is that the like does it use Egyptian for his speaking?
No, it doesn't. It's all in Hebrew. The whole story, because remember, this didn't get written down like right after Joseph's story was done. This got written down way later. It was all oral tradition until their like second temple period. Someone's like, we should really write these down now that we actually have like scrolls. Yeah. Okay. Onward. He turned away from them and wept. And that's how I know it's a test and not just Joseph being vengeful. Yes?
It's kind of ironic because they literally just said, we're super guilty or very guilty concerning our brother, in that we saw the anguish of his soul when he besought us and we would not hear him. And they're like, oh, we saw that our brother was in distress. And really, right in front of their faces, they can't tell that he's like falling his eyes out.
Isn't that interesting? Ironic. But when he returned to them and spoke to them, he took Simeon from them and bound him before their eyes. Then Joseph gave orders to fill their bags with grain and to restore every man's money to his sack, and to give them provisions for the journey. And thus it was done for them. Yeah. Yep. So they loaded their donkeys. Yeah, isn't it interesting?
Why Simeon?
So there's a bunch of layers, right? We don't know why he just took Simeon. Why didn't he take Judah if he knew that Judah was the firstborn? Did he know that Judah was the firstborn? We don't know. How do we know that we don't know when? Oh, we do. He does know that Judah was the firstborn.
He's the last kid. How could
Yeah, no. He should know that Judah is the firstborn. Quote unquote firstborn. They don't know that he knows. But how to, because Judah's the one that currently has the.
Is Simeon the next in line for firstborn after all of the?
No. So it was Reuben was the firstborn, right? And it was Reuben, Simeon, Levi, Judah are the first four born, right? Reuben, Simeon, and Levi all become like unqualified via their father. Reuben by sleeping with his stepmom, and Simeon and Levi by going and destroying the town of Shechem, right? Which is why it's so important hearing the story of Judah in chapter 38, where all of a sudden we're like, why does he have a cord?
And yet God makes the Levites priests.
Yeah, that's a fun study for a different day. Okay, we got 2 minutes left. We really don't have 2 minutes left, but that's okay. Are you guys having fun? Okay, I'm having fun. Verse 26, yeah? So they loaded their donkeys with their grain and departed from there. As one of them opened his sack and to give his donkey fodder at the lodging place. Which lodging place? He saw his money, and behold, it was in the mouth of his sack. Then he said to his brothers, my money has been returned, and look, it is even in my sack. And their hearts sank, and they, trembling with one another, said, what is this that God has done to us? Interesting, yeah? When you notice that something has been done unfairly nicely to you, but also that it could be perceived as something that is like you took advantage of someone, is your initial response, what did God do to me? Or is it, how did this happen? Isn't that interesting that their response is God is like getting back at us? It's that a carryover from when they were talking with Reuben, and Reuben's like, dude, this is the reckoning. Like, we're getting paid back for all the stuff that we did to our brother, right? They thought they had been paid back enough by having to leave Simeon. That's not enough. Now they got all their stuff back, but they're going to totally be perceived as spies, because how in the heck did they get all their money back? They don't even know. All right, that's enough time for today. Any questions really quick before we let you guys go for lunch? No questions? It all made sense? No? Oh, still pondering. Okay. I'll be around for, yes, Nick.
Is there like something in the whole like the beginning question? Why do you look upon one another?
Yes.
That's what Jacob asked in the very beginning.
Yes.
And they keep doing it throughout the whole time.
Isn't that interesting?
Like, why do you guys look at each other? And then later they see when they're talking to each other about Joseph, where the situation, they're looking at each other and they're like conversing, like, oh no, this is happening to us. And then just again, they're looking at each other and talking like.
It's like their natural reaction is like they don't know what to do, so they just all look at each other in amazement. They're like, ah, blah, 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 right?
Yeah.
They're kind of these like bumbling fools.
There's a lot of them.
Yeah. And they seem to always make their decisions together for some strange reason. Isn't that interesting? It's almost like there isn't a leader among them.
Kind of makes me think of the disciples when they're trying to discuss things.
Yeah. It does sound like the disciples when they're trying to discuss things. It's very interesting, yeah? All right, friends, let's pray and then let's get out of here. God, thanks for this time. It's been an honor to study your word. Thank you for that. Would we continue to mull over these things as we prepare for this afternoon and this evening? Would your kingdom rule in us as we do those things? In Jesus' name, amen. Thank you, friends.